In 1492, the world was on the verge of significant transformation as the European age of exploration reached its height. The events of that year are most commonly associated with Christopher Columbus' voyage across the Atlantic, often cited as the discovery of the Americas by Europeans. However, this narrative often overshadows the complex and vibrant realities that were unfolding across Africa at the same time. While Europeans were exploring new territories, Africans were actively engaging in their own significant political, social, and economic endeavors. Across the vast and diverse continent, African societies were thriving in distinct ways, with empires, kingdoms, and city-states that had well-established governance systems, bustling trade networks, and flourishing cultural traditions. One of the most powerful and influential African states in 1492 was the Songhai Empire. Located in West Africa, along the Niger River, the Songhai Empire was the successor to the earlier empires of Ghana and Mali. Under the rule of Askia Muhammad, who would soon rise to power, the Songhai Empire was poised to become the largest empire in African history. The political landscape of Songhai was defined by its well-organized administrative structure, with governors overseeing provinces and a professional army that safeguarded its borders and trade routes. Timbuktu, one of the most famous cities within the empire, was a renowned center of learning and culture. Scholars from across the Muslim world came to study and teach at the University of Sankore, contributing to the intellectual and cultural vitality of the region. Timbuktu, along with other cities like Gao and Jin, was also a hub for commerce, connecting sub-Saharan Africa to the Mediterranean and Middle Eastern economies through trans-Saharan trade routes. In North Africa, the influence of Islamic culture and politics was deeply entrenched by 1492. The region had long been part of the broader Islamic world, with cities like Fez, Marrakesh, and Cairo serving as important centers of learning, trade, and religion. The fall of Granada in 1492, marking the end of Muslim rule in Spain, had ripple effects across North Africa, particularly among the Berber communities who had strong historical and cultural ties to Muslim Spain. In the Maghreb region, the political landscape was dominated by the Waddasid dynasty in Morocco and the Hafsid dynasty in Tunisia. These dynasties maintained flourishing cities that acted as trading ports, linking Africa to Europe and the wider Mediterranean. Meanwhile, in East Africa, the Swahili coast was another crucial node in global trade networks. The city-states of the Swahili coast, such as Kilwa, Mombasa, and Malindi, were prosperous centers of commerce that connected Africa to the Indian Ocean world. Merchants from Arabia, India, and Persia regularly visited these cities, exchanging goods like gold, ivory, and slaves for textiles, spices, and other valuable commodities. The Swahili cities were also centers of cultural exchange, where African, Arab, and Persian influences merged, giving rise to a unique coastal culture and architectural style. Islam had a strong influence in the region, but the local populations also maintained older African traditions and customs, which blended harmoniously with their Islamic beliefs. The cities of the Swahili coast were characterized by their cosmopolitan nature, attracting travelers and scholars from across the Indian Ocean world. In Central Africa, the Kingdom of Congo was a significant political and cultural force in 1492. Located near the Congo River, the Congo Kingdom was a centralized state with a powerful monarch, known as the Man of Congo. The kingdom had developed a sophisticated political system with a bureaucracy that managed agriculture, trade, and taxation. The Congo was known for its artistic and cultural achievements, particularly in metalwork and sculpture. The Congo rulers also had established trade relationships with Portuguese explorers and traders who had arrived on the West African coast earlier in the 15th century. These interactions with the Portuguese would eventually lead to significant cultural and religious transformations within the kingdom, as Christianity was introduced, and new technologies and trade opportunities became available. Farther south, in the region that is now modern-day Zimbabwe, the Kingdom of Matapa was at the height of its power in 1492. The Matapa Kingdom was an offshoot of the earlier Great Zimbabwe civilization, and it controlled vast territories that extended into Mozambique. The kingdom was known for its wealth, which was derived primarily from gold mining and trade with the Portuguese and other foreign merchants. The Matapa rulers had a highly centralized political system and were able to maintain their power through control of trade routes and military strength. The kingdom's strategic location allowed it to dominate the gold trade in the region, making it one of the most prosperous African states of the time. In the Ethiopian highlands, the Christian kingdom of Abyssinia, Ethiopia, was another important African polity in 1492. The Ethiopian kingdom traced its origins back to ancient times, and by the late 15th century, it had established itself as a powerful Christian state in a region surrounded by Islamic territories. The Ethiopian emperors, who claimed descent from the biblical King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba, maintained strong ties with Christian Europe, particularly with Portugal, which would later play a crucial role in supporting Ethiopia during conflicts with its Muslim neighbors. Ethiopian society was deeply religious, and the church played a central role in both the political and cultural life of the kingdom. Monasteries and churches were spread throughout the highlands, serving as centers of learning and religious devotion. In West Central Africa, the Kingdom of Benin was another prominent African state in 1492. Located in present-day Nigeria, the Kingdom of Benin was known for its artistic achievements, particularly in bronze and ivory sculpture. The Oba, or King of Benin, ruled over a well-organized state with a highly structured court system and a powerful army. Benin City, the capital, was a sprawling urban center with impressive architecture, including walls and moats that surrounded the city. The kingdom had established trade relationships with Portuguese explorers, and European visitors to Benin were often struck by the sophistication and organization of the society. The Benin bronzes, which depicted scenes of court life, warfare, and mythology, remain some of the most celebrated works of African art today. Across Africa, 1492 was a time of great dynamism, with African societies engaging in complex political, social, and economic activities. From the powerful empires of West Africa to the vibrant city-states of the Swahili coast, African societies were deeply connected to global trade networks and cultural exchanges. They were centers of learning, art, and governance, contributing to the richness and diversity of the world in 1492. However, this period was also on the brink of major changes. The arrival of European explorers and traders, particularly from Portugal and Spain, would soon usher in a new era of interaction between Africa and Europe, one that would have profound and lasting consequences for the continent. As European powers expanded their influence through exploration, colonization, and the transatlantic slave trade, African societies would face enormous challenges, but in 1492, African civilizations were flourishing in their own right, demonstrating the diversity and resilience of the continent's peoples and cultures.